Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, all the way from Cape Peninsula University of Technology in the beautiful Western Cape province of South Africa. If you've not been to South Africa, please do not be deterred by Omicron. This is the place to be. Prof can tell you that South Africa is a place where you can go into, you can have all the 4 seasons in a day. But like she said, we are in summer. So, and my presentation this morning actually formed part of a larger project where we are, in which we are examining the barriers to regional integration in sub-Saharan Africa. Though doing something on COVID-19, like it happens to most of us, it's just an opportunity that presented itself with the pandemic, and we decided to, to work on it. Sorry, my slide is not moving. Okay. So basically, at the onset, what we set out to do was to understand the impact of the pandemic and the attendant lockdown regime on the immigrant-owned businesses in South Africa. And to do this, we decided to administer self-reported questionnaires to business owners that are of foreign extraction across the country. Basically, what we have in terms of number, I will talk about that later. And our finding was as good, as your guess. These businesses suffered, many of them, totally crippled. Many they were apprehensive that after the lockdown is done, they will be out of business. And it's more appalling that the government of South Africa established a lot of interventions for businesses, for households, but the foreign-owned businesses struggle to benefit from this intervention. So, we all know about the lockdown. We knew what every country was trying to do. Though people have argued that lockdown I'm sorry, I'm struggling with flu. That lockdown means different things in different countries. But in South Africa, for the first 6 months or so, lockdown for us was total restriction. You don't go out of your place. Everybody works from home, unless if your business is designated as an essential business and you require a pass to move around. Police will stop you every now and then to check the pass. So our economy was, largely affected in many ways. And then one of these areas was in the terms of businesses and small businesses. The South Africa economy shrunk by 7.9%. The GDP for 2020, and it was estimated that for us to recover, to get so where we were pre-2019, we need about 5 years. And I doubt if it will not be more, because recently a further shrinking of 1.7% have been reported. To combat the pandemic and the economic woes that befall the country, the government did 2 things. For individuals, for the loss of income that happened to them, the government offered different form of grants, palliative, and for businesses, it was bailout and tax relief. For small business sector in which we are interested, it was more of bailout funds. And it suffices to say, it is important to mention here that when we talk about small businesses in South Africa, immigrant-owned businesses plays a major role. A very good picture of it, can be given by the last bullets on the slide you're looking at now. There's something we call spaza shops in South Africa. In the rural communities and what we call locations in South Africa, they are like semi-rural place within our urban settlement. We have what we call spaza shop. They are like micro groceries, shops where majority of those people source their essential groceries. Different studies have shown that about 80% of them are owned and operated by foreigners. So this will give you a picture of the role foreign-owned businesses plays in South African economy. And we know globally, foreign-owned businesses, they play, I mean, small businesses generally do play in any economy a major role. In fact, in South Africa, small businesses are the major employer of labor. So what did we try to do? We wanted to check on these foreign-owned businesses, what was the impact of the pandemic on the businesses. We collected primary data from some of the business owners. Our response rate numerically is low because we have 39%, but given the circumstances, reaching out to people is difficult. People were stressed. They were not willing to respond, to participate in surveys. So we think this is satisfactory. And we did a non-response analysis to show if a sector was not represented, if some classes of people, and we discovered that there was no major difference. What did we find? Basically, the participants come from 8 nationalities. Though in giving out our response, our questionnaire, it was generally to small businesses. But somehow, the respondents were all from Africa. 8 countries in Africa, and they were spread across 8 major towns and cities in the country. And because there is this myth, or there is this street narrative in South Africa that the foreign-owned businesses operate within the informal sector, so they are not registered. So in our questionnaire, we actually ask about registration status, which could be detrimental to the response we get. Once people say this, they feel you are out to get them. Majority of them, 61%, happens to be registered businesses. They operate across the following 4 sectors: wholesale, manufacturing, retail, and services. Now, what did we find? One, on the impact of the lockdown on the business operation, 21% of the respondents says they were able to operate during the hard lockdown, though at much reduced scale, because if you are operating, people are not willing to buy. People are, they were apprehensive of many things. So we know that the buying patterns changed during the lockdown. So they were operating at reduced scale, but only 21% of them. Of this 21%, 20% indicated, that they were able to operate because their businesses fall within the category of what the government declared as essential businesses that were allowed to operate during the lockdown. Now, majority of them, about 89%, reported that the pandemic had very devastating effects on their business. And many of them are actually afraid that going forward, they may not be able to operate. They could be pushed out of business. On the question whether they benefited from government bailout fund, because there was a massive bailout for small businesses in South Africa. Governments put a lot of money into this. Big corporates were invited to come and donate into a solidarity fund. None of the respondents, 0, it was unanimously 0. None of them benefited from this funding. However, it was shown that about 29% of them actually applied for the funding. Those who could not apply, because we followed this study hub that, okay, let's pick if those who leave their contact. There was an option at the end of the survey for you to include your contact. So we did try to do a follow-up. Those who did not apply said they did not apply because the conditions were too stringent. It's almost impossible for you, if you are not a South African-owned business, to qualify.
Ahmed, you've got 3 minutes left.
Okay. So we tried to check what could account for this. We discovered that there was no correlation between you being an essential business and receiving grants. We checked registration status, it had no effect as well. However, some of them claim they got funding, they got some form of assistance in form of loan or grant from non-governmental organizations and from banks. And we discovered that being essential actually has a strong association with this, with both the NGO grant and the loan from banks. What were our concluding remarks, our conclusion? We take the position that discrimination against immigrant-owned businesses based on their national origin is detrimental to the economy at large. It's not, we are not doing any damage, the damage only to these businesses, but we are actually damaging our economy because we are staffing a section of South African economy. By doing this, the government is staffing them of funds. The government is crippling that section of the economy. And we know the impact this is going to have on the larger economy in terms of job security of the employees that are employed by these businesses and their impact in the value chain of small businesses at large and the industry in which they operate. And on the final note, doing this, if this was deliberate by the government, doing this is akin to vaccine nationalism. And coincidentally, South Africa is at the forefront of fighting or condemning vaccine nationalism. Thank you very much.